How's it going, everybody? I've finally gotten to play enough with the pyro update. It came out about 4 days ago. I've been playing a lot of TF2 since then. Finally feel like I have enough of a base to really talk about the pyro update, give an informed opinion about it, look at all the changes, say how I feel about all of them, all the weapon changes, the new pyro update, the contract changes, the skin changes, all that good stuff. Finally thought I'd gotten to know the update well enough to really talk about that. If you want the, I don't really want to watch your entire nerd essay video about a children's hat simulator game, understandable. Basically, I think the update's pretty good. It's a step in the right direction, but ultimately, for not that much content, it should not have taken a year and a half to make, I think is the big conclusion I'm trying to get to here. But let's get right into it. I went over day 1 and 2 before the update actually came out, so I won't go over that stuff too much. But days 3 and 4 were the new pyro weapons and changes to the pyro class, and then the actual patch notes that had all the weapon balances and all that stuff in it. So, talking about the new pyro flamethrower, this is by far the most important weapon the pyro got. People thought it would be the jetpack after seeing that, but I'll get into that later, but it's definitely not the jetpack. The new pyro flamethrower is actually really good. It's not quite what I wanted it to be. I think I'm not in the minority here when I'm saying the Quake lightning gun is really what I want to see on pyro. It's such a difficult and skill-intensive weapon to use because it just requires this ceiling forward is just all tracking, and like that's really what I want to see more of in TF2, these really aim-intensive weapons. This weapon is not as skill-intensive as I thought it would be upon first hearing about it. It's a powerful single-shot flamethrower. Consecutive hits reduce reload time and deal bonus damage. So basically, it's like a flare gun, except it has a limited range, and it shoots real quick. The item is really good. If you get the drop on somebody, you can basically like two-shot a scout or a sniper or whatever without them even knowing you're there, which is kind of ridiculous. The weapon is super good at just spamming chokes, which is something Pyro couldn't do very well before, but you can just spam chokes with this weapon and people will walk into the flames and take crit damage. It's actually kind of absurd how much damage this weapon does. Because you're dealing 30 on the initial hit, and then if you can hit them with a follow-up while they're still burning, and this even works on Pyros because the burn effect lasts for a just enough time where you can hit Pyros twice in a row with it. The follow-up shot deals like 80 to 90 damage. It's more than 100 damage total. You can, if you hit both shots, you can kill light classes, which is pretty crazy. It's a lot more DPS than Pyro used to having. It's much more burst damage. Pyro used to having like that damage over time effect. This is more of a burst weapon, and I think it's good for Pyro. It's definitely, I won't go so far to say it's the best pyro flamethrower because I haven't really gotten to play with it enough yet, but I play with it a lot. I think I've gotten to a point where I'm okay enough with it to say it's probably my favorite pyro flamethrower, just in terms of I want to kill people. Maybe it isn't quite the utility that the degreaser has, but the weapon's really good. I mean, I'm impressed, honestly. If you're looking at the there was a little map pickup game that the competitive community played in Europe, where they tried out the new pyro items, and the consensus was that the pyro flamethrower was actually pretty solid and competitive, which is surprising to me. I didn't think it'd be very good. In 6v6 play, you can not use a roamer and just play like a pyro on the flank, and it's actually surprisingly strong because it's so good at killing scouts, because you can hit both shots on a scout and basically kill him if he doesn't have a buff, which is pretty crazy. The pyro flamethrower is really good. I just wish it were a little harder to use. I'm not going to say it's overpowered. I don't think it's overpowered, but I wish the cone for it wasn't as wide as it is, because as it stands right now, you don't really actually have to be aiming the person. You can just be aiming sort of near them to get the hit, and you can also just shoot down like a doorway and get kills with it, which is kind of stupid. But overall, it's a step in the right direction for Pyro, I think. It's very different than other flamethrowers. I just wish it were less wide of a cone. I think it'd be a very skill-intensive weapon to use then, and that's really a good thing for Pyro. So, overall, the Dragon Sphere, I'm pretty happy about it. I'm going to play with it a lot. It's fun to use. Alright, next weapon we got here is the Pyro Jetpack, the Thermal Thruster. It's a jetpack. You get 2 charges with it, and you get to do like an initial high jump and then the actual boost from the jetpack, which goes in the direction you're aiming. And then the actual landing will deal fall damage to people if you land on them, and it also has like an air blast effect both when you take off and when you land on the people like in the radius of the effect. People are excited about this weapon. It's the first real mobility Pyro has. You can say the detonator's mobility, but it's not really that much. And I played a lot with the jetpack. It's kind of fun to use, but the jetpack is actually really bad. Like, it's just not good. big penalty that the jetpack has is that first of all you don't have a secondary weapon rather, and of all the classes, pyro relies on its secondary weapon a lot more than like most other direct combat classes like the scout or the soldier. The flamethrowers really aren't that good, especially at range, and that's really where the secondary comes in. You have a shotgun or a flare gun in that slot, so you can deal damage at that range. The point of the thermal thruster is you don't have to because you're jumping in to the enemies, so you don't have to deal range damage. But the problem with it is the switch speed penalty, which I don't know if it's listed in the patch notes, but it has a really heavy penalty to switch speed, so that once you can't actually undeploy the jetpack until like a second after you stop using it. So you use the jetpack, and then you try to undeploy it, and it's about a second delay before you can actually switch to your weapon to deal damage, which is pretty huge, because you can't use it as well as I think Valve intended to actually initiate fights. It's really a lot more useful for getting to places pyro shouldn't be, and just escaping from bad situations. But in order to use it as like an initiator, like a rocket jump, it's really just a lot worse than just jumping at them with a rocket launcher. Just because the delay between the time you can actually deal damage and the time you actually initiate it is high enough where you can just get melted before you get there. Unless you're going for like a 1v1 fight. And even then, if you're trying to fight like a scout or a soldier, you're probably going to lose if you just jump right at them. I think, giving pyro mobility is good, but it's not good enough where it's worth giving up a really important slot in the pyro's arsenal and also just, like, really just not having the utility in combat that pyro needs to really do well as a flank class. Overall, it's just not very good. People thought this would be like the big shake-up for pyro, that you could have a jetpack now, you could jump into people, you could have mobility, and it just didn't work out that way. Or I guess I haven't played enough with it yet to know for sure, but I think it hasn't worked that way. I'm not too big on the jetpack. I think really you should just put on a flare gun. The flare gun has always been like the best pyro secondary weapon, just because it can crit from range. You can harass snipers with it. You can do crit combos with it with the flamethrower and the degreaser. I think the flare gun and even the shotgun just has a lot more utility than the jetpack. And the jetpack's really more of a gimmick than anything. I think in the 4 days I played with it, I played a lot with it. I don't think I've gotten a single kill just like man-treadsing people. So I don't know. I haven't really tried, but it doesn't really happen very often. It's not really more of a joke on the weapon. It's not really a meaningful stat. I'm not too big on the jetpack. Let's move on to the other secondary pyro got, which is the gas passer. Now this is kind of like a smoke bomb-ish effect, and then people inside the smoke take more flame damage, and then they get longer afterburn. This weapon is also pretty bad, I feel like. I actually heard that it's actually been bugged, so like since the update came out, which would be a problem. Not really getting the extra damage that it's supposed to be getting, so I haven't really been experiencing it to its fullest potential. But ultimately, I feel like if you're playing pyro and you get the drop on enough enemies where you can coat them all in the gas and then go in and do a bunch of damage, you'd be better off just like sneaking around them and killing them rather than wasting time throwing the gas on them and then going to them and approaching them and shooting them. Because you can't really do it from the front, because people looking at you as pyro from further than your flame distance means you're going to die. Like, as a pyro, you can't really just walk into a scout or a soldier or a demo and expect to not lose, like the 1v1 fight, and if you're walking to a group of people, you're just going to die if they're looking at you. So you have to kind of use that element of surprise, and the gas passer kind of ruins that, I guess, because if say I'm on a payload cart, and I'm looking ahead, there's nothing there, and I get covered in the gas, I don't see anything. Naturally, I'm going to turn around, because I'm assuming there's a pyro behind me about to kill me. So, I feel like on pyro, it's just not worth giving up your secondary. Again, the shotgun and the flare gun are such powerful options at longer range than your flamethrower that I feel like it's not worth giving up your secondary just for this added utility of the gas. You can compare it to something like Girardi for the sniper, but it's different because sniper's secondaries are really much more utility focused than damage focused, whereas pyro's secondaries are much more damage focused and utility focused. Overall, I just don't feel like it has enough impact on the game. They take more fire damage, but not like excessively more, where they're just getting destroyed by fire. It's enough where you can get some kills with it, like Afterburn will get some kills, but it's not enough to really like sway the game, if that makes sense. Like if you're looking at Girardi in a competitive setting, you can nullify an entire push with Girardi, which is insane, just because mini-critting people is a lot better than just doing more damage, because it negates damage fall off. So what you could do is, if you know somebody's going to walk through a choke, then you can Girardi the choke, and then people can, like, your soldiers can spam from really far away and still do a ton of damage, because the mini-crits is negating the damage fall off from the rockets. You can't do that with a gas passer, especially since you have to actually be able to light on fire from close enough. Like, fire has such a small range that if you're within range, you might as well just be killing them anyways, rather than throwing the gas on them first and then lighting them on fire. I'm not too big on the gas passer either. Same with the jetpack. It's not worth enough giving up a big damage source for the pyro. And then the new melee weapon, I'm not really going to talk about it. It's a joke. Like, you don't even use your melee ever as pyro, unless it's like using the power jack to run faster, so who really cares? It's kind of funny to slap people, but like, as it does, who really cares? Okay, flamethrower improvements. This is good overall. The better netcode and hit detection on flamethrowers is really important, just because, you know, the no visuals damage mismatch. It's really kind of confusing for newer players to, you know, be playing pyro and they put their cursor directly on the enemy, and they wonder why their flames aren't hitting the enemy, because they don't really understand that it's a particle effect, and it's kind of like a small projectile. So you actually have to lead. You actually have to lead the target with your flames, and they don't really understand that. So it's good to like clear that up. On the other hand, the new particle effects, they're just not used to them yet, but they're really distracting, and like it's a lot of screen clutter. I'm not a huge fan of it. I feel like maybe it's just too much on the screen, and really, I'm going to be getting into this later, but like, I've been playing on TF2 with like more than 5 pyros on each team for the last half week, and it's really just getting to the point where there's so much fire on the screen I don't even know what's going on half the time. And that might just be the fact there's 5 pyros on each team, but I feel like the new particles are kind of contributing to that because they're less transparent than the old ones. I don't know, maybe it's just like a placebo, who knows. Just the new particle effects, it takes some getting used to. I'm not too big on them though. We'll see how that goes in the future. I like the new afterburn changes. Damage over time has always been like an effect in TF2 I've never been too happy about. Like bleed and fire is just not really fun, because if you don't have a medic or health pack nearby, a pyro can just light you on fire from across the map like a flare gun, and then you're going to take 3 damage every half second for the next 10 seconds, which is 60 damage. And for you not math folks out there, no, trust me, I got you, don't worry. You know, 60 damage is a non-zero amount of damage. It will kill you kind of often, especially if you're playing like an explosive class like Soldier or Demo, which are my 2 most played classes. If you can kill the pyro, but using your own explosives, you're taking self-damage from them, you're probably low enough where if they lit you on fire, you might just die from that, like, more than 5 seconds after they kill you, which just feels bad. It just doesn't feel good. I like the new Afterburn changes. Overall, I mean, Afterburn in, like, a structured setting, like a competitive match, doesn't really matter. Like, you can just tell, if you're playing Highlander, you can just, hey, pyro, I'm on fire, can you make me not on fire? Or you can just tell your medic to heal you, so it's not really important in a competitive setting, but in a pub, I like that change. Air Blast. The new Air Blast is really weird. I don't know if it's been buggy for the last few days, but it's just so different than the old Air Blast that it's just, I cannot get used to it for the life of me. You know, you have that muscle memory from playing Pyro for a long time of just, okay, I mouse 1 them, then I mouse 2 them, then I switch to my secondary, and I flare gun them, and it's just real nice. It's easy, it's simple, you got the muscle memory down, you just flare punch them, it's easy. The new Air Blast changes make it so you can't really do that nearly as effectively, because it's calculating the distance and the speed that people are getting air blasted at based on both players' movement, like the direction and the speed they're going. So if your enemy is playing scout and they're running full speed right at you and you air blast them, it's not going to air blast them nearly as far back as it used to, or like completely stop their momentum like it used to. But if they're running full speed away from you and you air blast them, they're going to go flying. And it's really weird and really different than what air blast used to be, so I'm probably just not used to it yet. But my first instinct is, I guess it's a good thing, because Air Blast has always been a pretty frustrating mechanic to play against, and just making it a little more varied makes it like less. It's not quite as bad as it was a while ago, where if you got Air Blasted by a pyro, you died. You'd either get flared or get extinguished, and you just insta die. And getting Air Blast, like, you couldn't strafe out of it. They made that a little bit better, like a couple updates ago, I guess, where you could strafe out of Air Blast, but it was still like a fixed amount of distance that you could Air Blast them. But this just shakes up everything, really. This is more of a nerf for Pyro than anything, which, you know, I'm always for that. Pyro is probably my least favorite class in the game. Actually, that's a lie. NG is probably my least favorite class in the game, but Pyro's down there. You know, it's just different. I can't really definitively say whether it's a good or bad change, but it's different, which I guess is good. You know, changing things up sometimes is good. But I'm iffy on it so far. Maybe I'll get used to it. Maybe I just won't, and I'll never play Pyro again, or never play, like, Flare Pyro again. But, you know, we'll see. Alright, the new heavy weapon. It's a new secondary, lunchbox. It's the banana. And, it only heals half the health that a sandwich does, but it recharges twice as fast. And then, also, if you drop it, it turns into a small health pack instead of a medium health pack like the sandwich does. I don't quite know how to evaluate this yet. My first instinct is pretty bad. I really wish instead of recharging twice as fast, the eating time was twice as fast, because, you know, really that's the big danger of eating a sandwich, is that you're healing a bunch of health, but you're also opening up. You're standing still for like 5 seconds. Maybe it's like 3 seconds, not quite sure on the exact math, but it's a while you're standing still doing nothing. The banana doesn't really fix that problem. It recharges twice as fast, which is nice. Like, it lets you, you know, put out a teammate on fire or heal your medic twice as often, but you're healing them for half the amount, maybe less actually, so that's not as good, obviously. I don't know, I just think the banana is worse than the sandwich. I think you should use a sandwich, not too much to talk about there. Alright, new fucking fart taunt, that's weird. I don't know why they put that in the game. Alright, and that's day 3. That's the new pyro changes. I'm not quite sure what Valve's goal with these pyro changes was. If it was to make pyro a generalist class, then clearly they failed, just because I don't think pyro will ever be a generalist class. It's because the core mechanic of the class is, you know, close range damage, but they're just outclassed by Scout in every way in terms of close range damage and like flanking ability and ability to get into that range where they can do a lot of damage. Scout is just so much better. It has so much more mobility, it has more burst damage, and the Dragon's Fury, it helps to kind of negate that difference, but still, it's just worse than playing Scout. Enough of the time where I'd rather just be playing Scout, I think. It didn't really help the utility of the class. There wasn't any, like, big teammate-oriented item other than, I guess, the Gas Passer. But the Gas Passer only helps friendly Pyros and yourself, and not really any other class, so I don't really know where that's going. The Thermal Thruster is okay, I guess. It's kind of a gimmick more than anything. It doesn't actually have enough utility to be used in combat, so I don't really know where they were going with that one. And this hand is just, like, who cares? It's a hand. Overall, if Valve's goal was to make Pyro better, they kind of succeeded, but if it was to make an actual viable generalist class, this definitely wasn't successful. And overall, I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing. I think Pyro just inherently has a lower skill cap than Soldier or Scout does, and it's probably a good thing that a really good Pyro won't beat a really good Soldier or a really good Scout in a fight, just because it's a lower skill class inherently. Like, by just the base mechanics of the class, it's lower skill than Soldier or Scout. So I'm not too angry that it didn't really turn Pyro into General's class. I guess I kind of would have liked to see just maybe a little shake up in the meta, but I'm not sad about it. If anything, I'm happy about it, actually. So, you know, I guess that's my overall impression of the Pyro changes. And day 4 is all the weapon balances. I have a video about all the weapon balances. They didn't really change anything from, like, the blog post they put out, like, 3 months ago that were proposing the weapon changes. I'll put that video in the description below if you want to look at that one. Highly recommend it. Quality video. They didn't change too much. I won't talk too much about it. But the real disappointment in this update, and the reason I'm a little bit upset about how long this update took, is because one of the big things I was looking forward to in the update was the competitive matchmaking changes that they teased a while ago. Competitive matchmaking in TF2 has been broken since it was released. It's been broken since the beta mode, and, you know, people have adamantly told Valve, this competitive mode is very broken. Do not release it in this state when it was in beta. I played it a heck of a lot when it was in beta, and it was fun, but it was broken. And I was okay with that, because I was having fun, and I was hopefully giving Valve feedback to make it not broken when it actually released into the main game. And it got released into the main game, and it was still broken, but I played it anyways because it was fun, and I got to like level 12 or 13, which is much longer than I should have been playing that horrible mode. And it's just at the point right now where it's unplayable for me because I'm at a high enough rank where I can't even get put into a game anymore, which is depressing. I'm not even that high a rank, but there's just not enough people playing it just because it's awful. It's awful for a number of ways, mostly including that there's no class limits, a really bad map pool, and also weapons are just unbalanced to the point where you can use a really broken loadout and be bad at the game but still do really well. Like, I guess before this update, I could just go critical at Soda Popper Scout and destroy people, even though I'm terrible at Scout. That's just how it was because weapons were unbalanced and there were no class limits. Like, no class limits itself is a horrible idea just because I've gone over this in the other TF2 video I made, which is in the link in the description. Watch that. But you can just go, like, if you're losing on a defense map, on, like, Gorge, which is in the map pool for some reason, you can just say, okay, let's just get 4 demos, and you're just never going to lose. Like, it's impossible to lose with 4 demos on defense. So, you know, no class limits is really bad, the bad map pool, the graphics restrictions, again, that's really bad. You know, some people, especially me, you know, the reason you're not watching gameplay instead of watching me on a Chrome tab, because my computer is too bad to run TF2 and record at the same time. So, but if people with computers like mine, like I need to use a graphics config to actually get more than like 30 FPS in this game. So, you know, that's not too good, and restricting that means I'm getting 30 FPS in the official competitive mode, so I'm not really too keen to play that. And also like the view models restrictions, which don't even make any sense. Who cares? Like, the rationale they gave behind that was like, so people watching a stream don't know why there's no gun on the screen. Like, if they really care that much, they can be like, streamer, why don't you have a gun? And then the streamer will explain why they don't have their gun on the screen. I mean, and matchmaking, they didn't change anything. They changed the casual mode to, you know, like prestige and casual mode, which doesn't really apply to me. I haven't played enough casual mode to get like anywhere near level 150. I'm level like 70 something right now, so that doesn't really apply to me at all. And most people really getting to level 150 is like a lot of pubbing. It's like hours of pubbing a day for the last year, which I have not done. So, you know, I guess it's nice for those people that they get to, you know, keep progressing. But I mean, again, levels are still completely cosmetic. Like, they don't actually help anything. I think the proposal I had in the last video was every time you level up in casual, you get like a weapon drop with like a 5% chance at a hat drop or something like that, just to incentivize playing the game, which a lot of modern games like Overwatch have, where just for playing the game, even if you're not winning, even if you're not playing competitive mode, just playing the casual mode, you still get rewards for it, which is nice. Yeah, that's really the only change they made to the matchmaking system, which is horrible. I mean, they say they're working on it, but it was like a long time ago that they said, you know, we hear you guys, we know the matchmaking mode is flawed, we're working on adding an elo system and placement matches to make it, you know, more in line with other modern games. And I've been looking forward to that for a long time, and I guess it's just not done yet. That's what I'm going to choose to believe, because if they think it is done, that's not a good sign. It means they don't understand their own game at all. So I'm going to choose to believe that they're still working on it. It'll be out in the next major update, which that could be in who knows how long. I'm kind of resigned to the fact there's probably not going to be the Christmas update this year. If there is, that'd be nice, but there probably isn't, just because they've been working on the pyro update so long. So, hopefully in the next update we get elo and placement matches. I'll be able to play in-game TF2 without having to play lobbies and stuff. That'd be real nice. The other big things that didn't get changed were there was no update to the anti-cheat system, which is probably asking a lot. I didn't really expect an update to the anti-cheat system. It would have been nice, but I wasn't really expecting it just because it's a lot of stuff, and I guess I'll get into this later, but the TF2 team is not very big, so I can see why the update took so long to ship. Also, like optimization fixes, there weren't any of that. The new update, the new maps are pretty well optimized from what I can tell. I haven't been getting like big FPS drops or anything, which is good. But, you know, just fixing the actual code of the game, which will help optimization probably. I don't really know. I'm not a fucking game developer, but hopefully, you know, doing things to help optimization would have been nice. But again, not a very big team, so, you know, it's understandable they just want to get all the content out. I guess that's the other major point I wanted to make is just for how much content is in this update, which ultimately is not very much, if you really think about it. It's like 5 community-created maps which they took from the workshop. 1 official map, which is a really nice-looking map, but it's also a really terrible map. I guess I could talk the maps a little bit, too. Mercenary Park looks nice. Yetis is pretty cool. It's actually just a really awful map. Like, the last on the map is impossible to push into. It's ridiculous. Maybe I just haven't played enough to know, like, the best place to push from. But like, you can put a sentry on the crates right there, and it covers all the entrances. Like, on the crates to the left of the point, it's, like, elevated, it covers all the entrances. It's really difficult to kill. And then, like, you're basically forcing enemies to walk through either the choke point that goes directly to the point, or the choke point to the left of the point, and it's just a whole mess. And it's impossible to push into the point, and it's just not a good map. Moss Rock is really fun. I wish people picked Moss Rock more. It's actually, like, a well-designed attack and defend map. And also, Lazarus and Brazil are really good. Banana Bay, I liked it at the start of the update. The more I started to play it, the less I started to like it. It's very similar to High Tower, I think. There's not really a whole lot of... It's really difficult to actually play the game on the map, just because even if you get the payload to the end, you have to just keep it there for, like, up to a minute just so the train can hit it. It's fun to just screw around on, I guess. All the water and stuff makes for some cool rocket jumping. Like, you can play Pyro Shark, I guess. But, overall, it's not like a super well-designed map in terms of actual gameplay. There's a lot of chokes you have to push a card through. And, like, you go right past their spawn. It's just a little weird. It's fine just screw around on, though, I guess. And the other map that was added in the update that I'm forgetting about, Enclosure, the payload map, I was looking forward to because it looked really cool. But, kind of like Mercenary Park, which is a fine map on the first 2 points, the last point of Lazarus is really hard to push into. you got forced into that warehouse, but there's just like 3 entrances, and they're not even height. You like have to go in through height disadvantage, like through a door to get the cart through. And you have to like push that cart through that really narrow area, which could be really difficult. You know, it's just like these map design things. And they're not bad maps, especially as other maps go. Like in TF2, like certainly it's not as bad as Hoodoo or like Frontier, which I'm not a fan. I know people like Frontier. I really hate Frontier personally, but it's not as bad as those maps. But there are things that could be improved upon in the map design. Yeah. So going back to where I started on this before I went on this map tangent, Valve didn't put that much content in the update. It was balance changes, new contract system, which is okay. I guess I haven't really talked about that yet either. So let's go on another tangent. The new contracts are cool. I like that you can go back and finish them if you don't finish the bonuses, which I didn't know, so I was kind of angry about. But I figured that out eventually. So you can actually go back and finish the bonuses on the contract if you don't finish them, get the stars you need. I like the new reward system for the most part. But, like, a lot of the contracts are really bugged and you can't do them. Like the Demo Man Double Donk contract, which I was on for like an hour before I realized it wasn't even registering my double donks, which sucked. So they haven't fixed that in the update that just came out either, so hopefully they fix that at some point. And then the reward system, it's a good system if the rewards were actually good. I was excited about the war paints for before it came out, but I didn't realize that you can't actually put it on weapons you already have. You give the war paint to the game, and then it gives you back a unique weapon with that war paint. So it's not, you can't just take the war paint and put it on the already cool gun you have with like kill streaks and stat clock and stuff. You have to, it just gives you a new one, and you have to buy your kill streak and stat clock stuff all over again, which kind of sucks. I'm not really big into trading, like I don't trade that much, my backpack isn't worth all that much, but it would have been nice to like, you know, not have to rebuy my kill streak kits for my items that I want to put cool skins on, like the pizza skin. Looking forward to my pizza scattergun, but I guess that's not happening, so I'm not going to get another kill streak kit for my scattergun. You know, pizza's cool, but it's not that cool. Yeah, so the skin system is kind of disappointing. I thought it was going to be cool, but it's a lot less cool than I thought it would be. That kind of sucks. And then what else did they add in the update? They added some hats. They didn't even add the hats. They took the hats from the community workshop. They didn't fix competitive matchmaking. And then the balance changes are, for the most part, pretty good. Again, you should watch my video, link in the description. Good video, watch it. They buffed the cow mangler for some reason. Don't know why they did that. That was kind of stupid. Yeah, and then that's about it. They didn't really change a whole lot else. I mean, it's not a bad update, and this is really the point I've been getting to for the last however long I've been talking for. It's not a bad update, but it's just like not a lot of stuff, you know? And it's not to say I've been having more fun playing TF2 in this update than I have in like the last year and a half, just because there's new stuff to try and like new weapons to try out, essentially. But really, it's not that much stuff. I wish there was more stuff. I wish there were more things to do, and there just aren't. That's really the thing I'm getting at. And, you know, I can't really blame the TF2 team because, you know, there's a report a while ago, there's like 4 coders in the team. And how are 4 coders going to, you know, really effectively develop a AAA title with thousands and thousands of players every day like TF2? It's so difficult for them. I feel bad for them because people, they're like, oh, they're incompetent, they don't care about the game. I'm sure they care about the game a lot. And it must suck for them because they're working their asses off on this game. And it just doesn't get the attention from Valve it deserves. And it's really the flawed business model of Valve where you can work on whatever you want. And if I were a Valve employee, I probably wouldn't work on TF2 if I didn't care about TF2. If I were a Valve employee, I would work on TF2 because it's my favorite Valve game. But if I didn't care about TF2, if TF2 wasn't my favorite game, why would I work on TF2 when I could work on, you know, cutting edge technology with VR, or just like working on Dota, making it an esport? That sounds fun. TF2 isn't an esport. I wish TF2 were an esport. It'd be a better esport than like Hearthstone, but it's not. So, I don't know. It's understandable people at Valve don't want to work on TF2, but it sucks because TF2 is definitely suffering because of the management structure at Valve. TF2 would be an awesome game if it just had like a lot more coders and they could add a lot more content in each new update, and didn't have to wait a year and a half for an update that's supposed to take like 6 months at the most. You know, that's about it. I wish TF2 had more people working on it. See you later. Fuck Pyro.